In this video, I'm going to walk you guys through how to make inferences with these pictures you see on the screen on the left-hand side. So when you're making an inference, you're combining things that you see, clues or details, maybe something you've read from the text. You're combining that with knowledge you already have in your brain, background knowledge, which is also called schema. Background knowledge is also called schema. So for example, this first picture here, you could say, I see a woman in a SpongeBob shirt and hat. I know that, and actually a lot of you would know that this woman is Miss Aubert. So I see Miss Aubert in a SpongeBob shirt and hat. So I'm not talking about anything I know in my brain about Miss Aubert. I'm just saying I see her. She's wearing a SpongeBob shirt. I know Miss Aubert is a silly teacher. She's funny and silly, right? That's something you know. There's nothing in this picture that says, hi, I'm Miss Aubert, I'm a silly teacher, right? We just know this in our brain, in our background knowledge, in our schema, that Miss Aubert's a silly teacher. We see, our clues are that she's wearing a SpongeBob shirt and a hat. I infer that Miss Aubert is trying to make us laugh. Because people who are silly usually try to make somebody laugh, right? So do you see how this first part here, I'm just saying things I see. I'm not talking about anything I know. And here, this is something that I don't see. This is something I do know. So we have see, something in your brain, and then both together, okay? That's one example. Another example, we'll use a different picture below here. Miss Coyle here. So I see Miss Coyle with a bowl, scissors, and a boy. I'm not saying I think it's her brother or her son or her nephew. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying I see her. She has scissors in her hand. There's a bowl and there's a boy. You could even say there's a bowl on the head of a boy. So you can be more specific if you want, but I'm not talking about anything that I know or think is happening here. I'm just saying things I see. Then I know Miss Coyle has a son. Okay? So now I'm saying, you know what? I know she's a son. My brain tells me that I know because she's told me before she has a son. So nothing in this picture says, here's Miss Coyle cutting her son's hair. It doesn't say anything like that. I just know, I know she has a son. I wonder if that's his son. I infer Miss Coyle is cutting her son's hair. Okay? So I'm not saying, so do you see how this first part here is just things I see? Miss Coyle, a bowl, scissors, a boy. I know she has a son. I infer that she's cutting her son's hair, okay? That's this one here. Now this picture, I'll make it a little bit bigger because it's kind of hard to see here. For this next one, I see Miss Shore surrounded by many books. Okay, I see Miss Shore, I see lots of books. I'm not saying anything about how I think she's at a library, how I think she's going to read. I'm just saying what I see. I see Miss Shore and I see a lot of books. I know in my brain that Miss Shore likes to read. She's told me that before. Okay? Nothing in here says, I'm Mrs. Shore and I like to read. She's not even necessarily reading here, right? I just know in my brain that she likes to read because she's told me before. I infer that Miss Shore is going to check out a book and read and spend some time reading. Okay? I took something I saw. something I know and I made an inference. Now the last one I'm going to do is this picture up here. Make this one a little smaller again so you can see it. This one here with Mr. Kenney. So I'm not saying I see Mr. Kenney playing football. I don't see him playing football, right? It's not a video. It's just a picture. I see him standing, Mr. Kenney, standing with a football in his hand. All I see in this picture. I know that Mr. Kenney likes to play football because he's told me before. I infer that Mr. Kenney is going to or is playing. Do you see how I don't actually see him playing football here? I see him standing and holding a ball. If it was a video, maybe I could say I see him playing football. But I'm inferring that if he's holding a ball, then I know he likes football, he'd be playing football. So there's a difference here. So the first part is just things you see. That's the I see. Second part are things that are just from your brain. Third part is putting those both together. All right, I hope this makes sense. If there's anything else I can do to help you understand this better, leave me a note in the comments.